Hi there, everybody. Welcome back for another game with the Baseball Replay Journal. And we have another exciting one for you today. As the 2-2 St. Louis Browns head over to Chicago to take on the 3-1 Chicago White Sox. And it's been fun to put together the lineups for this and try to go back and look and remind myself when Ed Walsh last pitched for Chicago. As we're trying to pitch him on a sort of a 3-game rotation. Every third game he starts. And the problem that we have with this that is he has a start and then 2 games off and then a game again. The problem with this is that the other pitchers on the squad can't pitch that quickly, so it's kind of hard to set a rotation where you have one guy who's pitching after 2 games of rest or 2 days rest, and the other guys are all doing 3 days rest. But we're going to make it work for you here. George Stone, and as you can see, Walsh is not starting for Chicago. Instead, they've got Owens in there today. Frank Owen, rather. And the first batter for the Browns is George Stone. He rolls a 26 for a 27, and that is a ground ball over to third base, and Tannehill's got that one over to first for the out. And here's Bob Wallace. Frank Owen with that 8 rating is one of the few guys that we've had as starting pitchers here who have not had a rating in double digits. Bobby Wallace now rolls a 64 for a 13, and he's a strikeout victim. And here's Hobe Ferris. Ferris will roll a 24 for a 13, and he strikes out as well. How about that? And up comes Fielder Jones now, bottom of the first inning, facing Rube Waddell. Good old Rube Waddell. Jones rolls a 33 for a 7, and he's got a base hit, and he's the runner on first base, and the White Sox are going to start running right away. And here comes Ed Hahn. We've hit and run on. Hahn rolls a 66 for a 0. Second column roll is a 64 for a 6, and that's a double to right field, and that will score Jones 1-0 Chicago here in the early going. Ed Hahn stands at second base, and here's Patsy Doherty. And he rolls a 64 for a 40, and that one is changed over to a 38. That winds up being a single into the hole between third and short, and Hahn has to hold because of where that ball is hit. And that brings up George Davis now in an interesting situation with runners on first and second and nobody out, and he's going to bunt right away. With that playing card, you know we're going to bunt. Rolls a 51 for a 9. That's a little bunt over to the left side. Ferris grabs it. He has to go to first base with it, and it's over to Williams covering. And that advances the runners to second and third. And here comes Freddie Parent, runners on second and third. Big opportunity for Chicago, and he rolls a 36 for 33. Those 36s are those opportunity killers. The little E rolls a 55, nothing doing there. That's a pop-up over to Ferris, who gets it in foul territory for the second out. And here's Jiggs Donahue. He rolls a 63 for a 32. That is a fly ball to right field. Hartzell's got it, and that does that. And we go up to the top of the second inning, and it's Jimmy Williams. Jimmy rolls a 36 for a 33, and that's going to be a pop fly over to Davis, the second baseman, for the first out. Now Danny Hoffman rolls a 31 for a 9. That is a pop foul over to right outside of third base, and as Tannehill has got that 1-2 away. And here's Roy Hartzell. Rolls a 66 for a 0, and Roy comes up again, and it's a 15 for a 2, and that is a triple to left center field, and that'll bring up Tom Jones. 2 outs, though, in the top of the second inning. Can't really put a play on. He rolls a 35 for a 37. What kind of rule is that? Changes over to a 40, which is a fly ball over to center field. Jones has it for the out, and that does that. We go to the bottom of the second inning, and it's Lee Tannehill. He rolls a 21 for a 30. That is a fly out to Stone in left field, 1 out for Chicago. Here's Billy Sullivan. He rolls a 64 for a 29. That is a strikeout for Rube Waddell, and that's his first strikeout of the game, mind you. And here is Frank Owen. And he rolls a 54 for a 45. That is a fly ball over to right field, and it'll be Hartzell making the play. We go to the top of the third, and Jim Stevens comes up for the Browns. He rolls a 55 for an 8, and that is a single, and this is where Frank Owen's lack of effectiveness might hurt them. And that brings up, of course, Rube Waddell, and he's going to bunt. His roll is a 32 for a 26. That is a little bunt over to first base, and it will be Donahue making the play over to who is he? Davis, who's covering at first, and that puts Stevens up to second. And here comes George Stone with an opportunity to tie this one. He rolls a 41 for a 28. That is a ground ball to shortstop, and it's Parent who's got it over to first base for the out. Here's Bobby Wallace, 2 away. Rolls a 16 for a 26. This time it's going to be a ground ball over to Davis at second, who makes the play at first, and that does that. No run score for the Browns. They waste an opportunity, and here in the bottom of the third, we have Fielder Jones to lead it off. Rolls a 36 for a 33. That's a pop fly up to Williams at second base, who's got it, 1 away. Here's Ed Hahn. Rolls a 63 for a 31. That is a fly ball to center field. Hoffman's got it, 2 away. Patsy Doherty now. He rolls a 31 for a 9, and that's a single, but unfortunately that little C will catch him as he tries to steal with the next man up, and we go to the top of the fourth as Patsy is caught stealing. Hope Ferris rolls a 13 for a 39, which changed to a 37. That's a ridiculous roll. And the next roll is a 52 for a 27. That is a ground ball over to third base. It's going to be Tannehill grabbing that one, shoveling it over to first base, 1 out. Here's Jimmy Williams. He rolls an 11 for a 0, and he goes fishing, and there's a 14 there for him for a 6. Doubles to right center field with 1 out, and here's Danny Hoffman. And I think we're going to swing away with him. He looks like he can hit. The roll is a 45. I had to double check, and that's a base on balls, and that puts him on first base. Runners on first and second now with nobody out. Here's Roy Hartzell, and he's going to bunt. You know that. He rolls a 32 for a 26. That is a bunt over to third base, and Tannehill's got it. Makes the play at first base. The runners move up, and that brings up Tom Jones. And Jones rolls a 13 for a 14, and he walks, loading the bases here for Jim Stevens. Not exactly the guy you want to come up with the bases loaded. He rolls a 12 for a 24, and we can forget about the whole thing. That ends up being a ground ball over to Parent. It's short. He makes the quick play over to Davis at second for the force out. We go to the bottom of the fourth inning, still 1-0 White Sox. George Davis rolls a 25 for a 9. He gets the single, but he has a little C as well, and that one costs him there as he's thrown out trying to steal. 1 away now, Freddie Parent. He rolls a 34 for a 44, and that is going to be a little E roll. The roll is a 61, and that ends up being a fly out to center field. Hoffman's got it, 2 away. Here's Jiggs Donahue. And he rolls a 42 for a 22. That one is changed to a 19. That ends up being a ground ball over to third base. Ferris is an excellent fielder, and he makes the play at first, and that does it. We go to the top of the fifth inning, and here's Rube Waddell. Rolls a 32 for a 26. Ground ball to Davis at second. He makes the play at first. 1 out. Here's George Stone now. Rolls a 54 for a 45, and the little E comes up, and he rolls an 11, and so that's going to be the first error of the ball game. That one is charged to Parent at shortstop. A big error there, potentially, with only a 1-0 lead, 1-0 margin that is, and here's Bobby Wallace, and he rolls a 61 for a 39, which is changed to a 40, and that's just a little ground ball over to the first baseman, Donahue, who goes to second for 1. Parent, the shortstop, makes that play at second, and then the return throw doesn't happen. Beaten out by Bobby Wallace, and there are 2 outs now, and that's, I suppose, an unusual play. Not too unusual, I would say. Hope Ferris now rolls a 55 for an 8, and that's a single to left center. That sends Wallace to third. Here comes Jimmy Williams, now runners on first and third. 1-0 White Sox, the slimmest of margins. And Williams will roll a 65 for a 35, and we'll see if this little E happens. The roll is a 13. That's within range. That's a ground ball over to the third baseman, and it is Tannehill who boots that one, and that allows the tying run to score, and it's a 1-1 ball game now. 2 errors for the White Sox. Danny Hoffman up there now rolls a 24 for a 13. That is the third strikeout of the game that Owen has caused. We go to the bottom of the fifth, but it's a brand new ball game now, 1-1. Here's Lee Tannehill. He rolls a 61 for a 32, and that is a fly ball to Hartzell in right field, 1 away, and here's Billy Sullivan. He rolls a 12 for a 25, and that is a strikeout for Waddell. Waddell with his second strikeout of the game. And here's Franco, and he rolls a 62 for a 12, and we're going to see about this little E. The roll is a 36, so no error. Instead, that's a ground ball over to first base. Jones has it, steps on the bag, and that does that. We go to the top of the sixth inning now. Roy Hartzell rolls a 61 for a 30. That's a fly ball over to left field. Doherty's got it for 1 out. And here's Tom Jones. Rolls a 26 for a 27. That's a ground ball to third base, and Tannehill's got it this time. Makes the play at first, 2 away, and Jim Stevens there now. Rolls the 23 for a 32, and that's a fly ball over to Hahn in right, and that does that. We go to the bottom of the 6th. Fielder Jones coming up. Tight game, 1-1 ball game. Jones rolls a 25 for a 10. That's a single to center field, and he's got another one of these leadoff hits. And you know that we're going to hit and run again. Here comes Ed Hahn. Rolls a 44 for an 8, and that ends up being a ground ball to second baseman Williams, who makes the play at first. But Jones moves up on that grounder, and here comes Patsy Doherty with a chance to drive in the go-ahead run. And his roll is a 32 for a 26. That's a little ground ball over to Williams at second base, makes the play at first. Jones moves up to third. And here's George Davis, and I'm wondering why in the world I'm hitting this guy cleanup. He rolls a 52 for a 27, which is a ground ball to third base. Ferris makes the play at first, and that does it. Top of the 7th inning, and this one's a little bit tight now. Rube Waddell up there rolls a 26 for a 13. He strikes out, 4th strikeout of the game for O, and Frank is pitching very, very well. George Stone now rolls a 62 for a 12. That's a ground ball to first base, and it is Donahue who has it. Does it unassisted, 2 away. Owen still has an ERA of 0, and he hasn't given up anything. That run was unearned. Bobby Wallace now rolls a 13 for a 14. That's a walk. And here comes Hope Ferris. And he rolls a 31 for a 9. And that is a ground ball over to third base. Tannehill's got it. Makes the play at first. Bottom of the 7th we go. And this game is closer and closer. And here's Freddie Parent. He rolls a 66 for a 0. And the second roll is a 36 for a 6. And he doubles to right center field. And that brings up Jiggs Donahue. And Jiggs is going to jig on out of the way with a bunt. And the roll is a 22 for an 8. That is a good bunt. Bunts it back over to Waddell, who makes the play of first. 1 away, and it's Lee Tannehill now with 2 chances for Chicago to drive this run in, and we're not bunting. We don't make the same mistake. Infield comes in. Roll is a 21 for a 30. Is that deep enough? It's a fly ball over to Stone in left field. He makes the catch, and there goes Donahue for home, and he makes it, and the score is now 2-1 White Sox. And here comes Billy Sullivan. He rolls a 13 for a 38. That'll be a change to a 36, just a ball. Next roll is a 36 for a 33. That's a pop fly out over to second base, and it'll be, who is it there? Williams making that catch, and that does it. We go to the top of the 8th, 2-1 White Sox now, and here is Jimmy Williams. Rolls a 25 for an 8, and that's a single to left center, and that hurts Owen, who now is down to being a D pitcher, and here comes Danny Hoffman, and they're going to hit and run. Roll is a 31 for a 9. That ends up being a single, sending the runner to third base, but Hoffman has that little C, which gets him caught stealing, trying to go to second base as a potential go-ahead run. And that brings up Roy Hartzell with Williams on at third base, and we're going to swing away with Hartzell. The infield comes in. 1 out now, and the roll is a 66, and boy, we're happy that we decided to swing away, aren't we? The next roll is a 52 for a 6, and that ends up being a double over to right field, and that scores the runner. If you look at the boards themselves, this play result number 5 should be a home run in that situation, but it's changed to a second because it's in the double column, so it's changed from a 5 to a 6. Normally that would have been, well, it says 6 here. Interesting. I'm not quite sure exactly what's happened. I'm sorry. This is a 6, which is normally a home run. It is changed to a 5. That's what's going on. And here's Tom Jones now, top of the 8th inning in a tie ball game, and this is a tie one, mind you. Tom Jones now with a chance to really put them ahead, and he rolls a 36 for a 33. There's a little bit of a little east that this rally might stay alive, and the White Sox have been bad in the field. Now the rule is a 25, and ends up being a pop fly over to the shortstop, Parent, and there's the second out, and here's Jim Stevens. And that 36 rather, rule might always be it always seems to kill these rallies, doesn't it? Jim Stevens rolls a 41 for a 28. That's a ground ball this time over to Parent at shortstop, and he makes the play at first. And we go to the bottom of the 8th, tied at 2 now. And here is Frank Owen. And we're going to leave Frank in. And the roll's a 52 for a 27. That's a strikeout for Waddell. No surprises there. It's third strikeout of the game for Rube. Fielder Jones now rolls a 34 for a 44. That's a fly out to center field, and Hoffman's got it for the out. And here's Ed Hahn. He rolls a 13 for a 14. That's a walk for the White Sox. So they have a chance. Here comes Patsy Doherty. And he rolls a 26 for a 27. That'll be a strikeout for Waddell. That's his 4th strikeout. And that does bring up Rube Waddell in the top of the 9th inning, and this is an exciting one. He rolls a 25 for a 14, which is a kind of an odd thing to have on there. And Frank Owen has now given up 4 walks and 4 strikeouts in this game. Waddell is slow, so we're not going to hit and run. We're not going to try too many shenanigans. George Stone now will try to push him over. He rolls a 44 for a 7. He's going to be successful in his endeavors. And Stone gets the single to right center field. That pushes Waddell up to second base. And now Waddell, of course, because he's slow, is unable to go any further. And with that, the Browns are in a very, very good position here. Nobody outrunners them first and second, top of the 9th inning. And there's a chance that they might be able to push this one home. And I'm kind of hesitating a little bit, wondering if it wouldn't be best to take Owen out at this point. We'll take a quick look at the bench and see who we've got. Altrock was probably my second choice to start this game. We're not going to use Walsh. We're not going to use Smith or White, either one of which would be fine. It's either really Altrock or Manuel. And Moxie Manuel is actually looking like he might be a better choice. Manuel only started 6 games. Altrock started 13. I think we're going to use Manuel as the relief pitcher here. There we go. We have him chosen as a replacement. And so Moxie Manuel comes on with nobody out here. Top of the ninth inning. Bobby Wallace coming up in a real key situation for St. Louis. And I think we're just going to have him swing away. It rolls a 54 for a 45, and that's a fly out over to Hahn in right field, and the runners hold. And boy, I bet you wish you would have just forgotten about that one. Here is Hope Ferris, and he wants to at least try to advance the runners to get something out of this, so we will bunt with Ferris. And the roll, of course, is an 11 for a 0. And the next roll is going to be a 12 for an 11, and that's a single that beats out a bunt, and he loads the bases. Now, you'll notice that there's no stolen base here, despite the fact that it was an 11, because there's no place for him to go. And so now with one out here in the top of the ninth inning, we have the bases loaded, and here comes Williams up to hit. And this might be the Jimmy Williams up here with perhaps the key situation of this ballgame. The infield comes in. Williams is going to swing away, and he rolls a 14 for a 43. Here comes a potential little E error, and wouldn't it be crazy if this one was resolved on an error? And it will be. There's a 21 is the rule, and that is a ground ball over to first base that Donahue muffs. And everybody is safe, and a run scores. Now the score is 3-2 for the Browns. And wouldn't you like that? At the very end of this one ends up turning on an error by Chicago, and the hometown fans must be absolutely livid. Here comes Danny Hoffman now, and the bases are loaded. One out is all. Infield is in. 3-2 is the advantage for St. Louis, who's come back from behind in this game. And he rolls a 46 for a 29. That's going to be a little ground ball over to Manuel, who throws over to the catcher Sullivan for the out. 2 away now for Roy Hartzell. Bases loaded. No need to bring the infield in. 2 outs, and he rolls a 54 for a 45. That's a fly ball over to Hahn in right field, and that does that. So the Browns able to take advantage of that, but you'll notice they have left 12 runners on base in this game. 3-2 St. Louis now as we go to the bottom of the ninth inning. Here's George Davis. He rolls a 51 for a 9, which means he promptly gets a base hit, but then is caught stealing because of the little C. There's one out here in the bottom of the ninth. Here's Freddie Parent, and he rolls a 22 for an 8, which is a ground ball over to Wallace's short. He makes the play at first, 2 away, and here's Jiggs Donahue. And he rolls a 21 for a 30 for a fly to left field, and that does it. And there's your ball game. Hope you enjoyed that one. 3-2, the St. Louis Browns come back to beat the White Sox despite leaving 12 runners on base. And boy, that was an exciting one. I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.